This simple living is a fraud. This is city living in the country. This is just another pretty girl spending money on whims and calling it simple living. Destroy a beautiful place, lose money building a luxury palace, call it homesteading. Look at what she's wearing. Real self-reliance is doing all of this and not posting videos of yourself on the internet while doing it to get attention. Whether it's simple living, slow living, homesteading, self-reliance, or off-grid living, I've decided I don't want it anymore. Or at least I don't want the narrow-minded black and white version of it. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that I've been vlogging my build journey. If you're new here, hi. I share my mistakes, my downfalls, and my successes of building my home and homestead from scratch. So if you're into DIY, I'd say subscribe. For the longest time, I had a very narrow-minded view on life. I also became very black and white when it came to homesteading, self-reliance, and natural living. I didn't eat refined sugars. I tried to only buy organic food, and I bought local and organic meat. And I'm not saying that this lifestyle is bad. It's a very great lifestyle. But for me, it became an obsession about being perfect. There's still a lot of trauma to unwind and things to work on. But for me, I'm rejecting the perfectionism of simple living, of homesteading, self-reliance, off-gridding, and more. I'm rejecting the idea that simple living can only mean living in a small shack in the middle of the woods to get closer to nature. Like, how is even owning that plot of land to put the shack on to begin with even accessible nowadays? Most land around me goes for over $200,000 for less than an acre. I'm rejecting the idea that to live simply, you're only allowed to thrift shop and you're only allowed to own things that you absolutely need, and that you can't strive to invest money or become more wealthy. What one of my loyal commenters said, simple living can be surprisingly complex. And it sure can be, and it can look different for each individual, and that's okay. So what is simple living? How is it defined in the online world? I know Wikipedia isn't overly reliable, but they say simple living refers to the practices that promote simplicity in one's lifestyle. On Zen Life, they say living a simple life is about paring back so you have space to breathe. It's about doing with less because you realize that having more and doing more doesn't lead to happiness. Vanilla Papers says simple living is all about cutting back your possessions and living a less hurried life. What I really liked was the Reddit section. One commenter said, for me, it's about living life intentionally. So I'm not just working a job that I hate to buy things or services that I only need because I'm exhausted and stressed because of the job I hate and I'm destroying the planet in the process. Another commenter said, to me, simple living has nothing to do with minimalism or going off grid. Tell me more. To me, simple living is about living a life of purpose and contentment. And another one said, simple living is something different for everyone. Ding! My housemate works as a biotech scientist and has roomed way under his budget for 8 years and rode his bike to work, rarely went out to eat, and worked a lot of overtime. He saved his money and invested it and travels full time now. The thing is, simple living can't be a checklist. It has to look different for every single person because every person, every location around the world and family unit looks completely different. Not every person can live that one room cabin in the woods because some people are families of 4 or 6. Like, are you only allowed to be single for this simple living lifestyle? Is a person who's living in the city who has friends and family around them that they love and they love their job, are they not allowed to live simply just because they live in the city? I've actually always tried to live a little bit more simply. In high school, my friends would go out for lunch and I would literally bring a boxed lunch to eat with them because I knew it was cheaper eating free food from home. In university, I applied for the cheapest student housing that you could apply for. I bought the cheapest fruits you could buy, always in bundles. I only bought food on sale. I would walk a half hour to a different grocery store in order to be able to get cheaper food. When my husband and I got married and moved out of the city back to the country, I forced my husband into a frugal lifestyle. We bought a used standard vehicle, manual, stick shift, and financed it for 2 years. My husband had to walk or bike to work because I needed the vehicle for my job. We bought our first home $15,000 under budget. We really pared back in order for me to be able to be a stay-at-home mom, and I still had to make money on the side for us to be able to afford it. I made signs for a living, and I started a homestead on 1/10 of an acre. We only had a parking lot as a backyard, and I turned it into a garden oasis. And now we're here. We sold our 3-bedroom, comfortable sell home in pursuit of more land to be able to extend my homesteading dreams. We bought a 2-bedroom, 300 square foot trailer that we've been living in for almost 3 years. And that is when I created the channel Simple Living with Biata. When I thought I was gonna live in a yurt for 10 years, like Jake and Nicole off grid, or build a shipping container home like I've seen so many other YouTubers do. I thought, surely you could build a cheap home if you were building a yurt or a shipping container home. Sadly, I was wrong. Buying a yurt in Canada with all the insulation and enough square footage to have a 2-bedroom home, because it's very important for me, for my daughter to be able to have privacy. That meant buying an 800 square foot yurt. You have to remember, circles don't utilize space as well as squares do. This option ran about $40,000 just for the shelf, not including the foundation. To put that in perspective, the lumber package for my home, the architect drawings, my build permit, and my roofing costs came to $41,340 for a 1,300 square foot home. So you're telling me that this home, with all of the interior walls in place, costs about the same as a very poorly insulated 800 square foot yurt. Now, obviously my concrete foundation ended up costing a lot more than a pure foundation or like a deck for a yurt, but still I'd rather invest my money, because we have to remember I'm investing my money. That would be considered valuable to a mortgage company or a lender, and that would also have good resale value, even though we don't plan on selling this anytime soon. The shipping containers seemed like a great idea too, until I started pricing them out and realized that 3 shipping containers was gonna cost me around $15,000. Again, more difficult to insulate and less space. So we invested our money into an actual framed home, the most common type of home in Canada. A lot of people say to do simple living, you have to be off-grid. And this is where you have to look at each individual location. Is fully off-grid going to be the best for you and your property? 20 minutes away from me, you would absolutely need to go off-grid with your power solution. But for me, the power was right here. It was actually the cheapest solution, even year over year with bills. I was quoted at least $60,000 for a solar system rig. This is a new time. We are building under extremely new prices that are very high. So for us, we brought in electricity for $24,000. Our monthly bills are less than $150 a month. And usually when you have a solar system for about 20 years, you're needing to replace the panels, and sometimes you're needing to replace the batteries between 10 and 15 years. And I'm not saying that this is a terrible option. I'm saying it just doesn't have to be the only option to live more simply. Someone commented, why did we go with a septic system? Because that might not be considered simple living or off-grid living. Those incinerator toilets, they're $6,000 each. We have a 2-bathroom home. Do we need 2 bathrooms? No. But our septic system costs $11,000 to build. I would much rather simplify my life than having to deal with an off-grid toilet. But again, you have to weigh the pros and cons. If you live on an island in the middle of nowhere, it's definitely going to be a lot more expensive building a septic system than it would be just to have an off-grid composting system or incinerator toilet. And this is where location, family situation, and lifestyle really has to come into play for simple living. So here we are, the most average size home at 1,300 square feet with 3 bedrooms. And actually the average size home in Ontario is 2,380 square feet. So we're smaller by 1,000 square feet. Do we need 3 bedrooms? No, I actually considered building a 2-bedroom home. But again, you need to consider the lifestyle. This YouTube channel is my business. Having that 3rd bedroom allows me to have an office where I get to write off electricity costs for that percentage of the home, heating costs for that percentage of the home, and I'm sure there's more. Plus then we have a 3-bedroom home, which makes it a much more valuable home. Is having 3 giant triangle windows that are custom in my home a luxury? Yes, 100%. Are those triangle windows considered simple living? Absolutely not. Do I care? No. Did I need to go with vaulted ceilings? Did I need multiple roof lines? Could I have made my home cheaper by simplifying the design? Yes, I could have, but I also wanted my dream home. And guess what? Those things, they bring me immense joy. I absolutely love that other people's versions of simple living looks like living in a trailer their whole life and loving it, or living in a small cabin in the woods their whole lives. And maybe that is the true definition of No, it's not. F that. And if that is your true definition of what simple living looks like to you, that's totally okay. I think there might even be 3 categories of simple living. Number 1, out of choice, to be content, not needing more and not needing less. Number 2, out of necessity. You might be working 3 jobs to make ends meet as a single parent. Simple living might just be for a reason and a season, to survive, to get by. And it probably would be met with some resentment as well. And number 3, living simply for a brighter future. Paring down, being frugal so that you can invest your money and grow your wealth. So I'm just a person in a box on YouTube. Take that as you will. You don't have to agree with me. But what does simple living mean to me? To me, simple living can mean staying within your means and maybe not buying the things you don't need. It can also mean buying the things that make your life more simple. For instance, me buying a new truck. It's making my life 1,000 times easier. Yes, I could have stuck with the SUV that had engine issues and needed at least $5,000 in repairs. And I would have stuck that out. But I realized, you know what? I've been working really hard and I can afford the monthly payments on this truck. And it makes my life easier. So although it doesn't seem frugal to me, even still, that choice is making my life more simple. To me, simple living can even mean downgrading your lifestyle in order to get ahead in life. Like us living in this trailer for 3 years in order to be able to afford this build. We couldn't have afforded it if we just rented a home. For me, simple living can also mean self-reliance and homesteading. I can't fully be into the homesteading right now with building this home and wanting to be able to live in here for this winter. I don't have a ton of time for it, but I just cannot wait until I can fully get into garden mode. Like you can see the new tree I bought here, right? It's a fruit tree. Simple living can also mean building your own home from scratch. You don't have to do it, but it can mean that. Even if it does have 3 custom windows and 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms. Even if it's a luxury palace compared to a shack in the woods. You're living simply by learning all of the trades, knowing how your home works, and being able to have the skills to do the repairs in the future. Simple living can even mean owning an apartment in Toronto and watching a video on how to replace a toilet instead of calling in a plumber. I also think that you can live simply and invest your money. Like that guy on Reddit who said his roommate lived under his needs and invested his money for years and now is able to solo travel. For us, we lived as simply as we could for a very long time. We invested our money into buying a home, and doing this YouTube channel has truly changed my life. It's the best job I could ever have, and I am so thankful to be able to make a full-time income to be able to help pay for this house. So to me, building this extravagant home, as some people put it, is truly an incredible investment of finances. I'm not out there buying Louis Vuitton and Coach purses. I never have been. I'm wearing Old Navy leggings that cost me $35, and I keep buying the same pair over and over and over again because I love them and they're comfortable. For me, I want to be able to live simply enough to invest my money to be able to do good for others as well. So in order to live simply, I don't think it needs to be so black and white. I don't think you need to live in a small shack in the woods, or in a car, or in a trailer, or in a bus. You can live more simply in a city. You can pare down. You can live more frugally, making your own meals, carpooling to work, or taking public transit. There's so many options. It is not an exclusive club. But again, what do I know? I am just a person on a YouTube box sharing my thoughts, and you don't have to agree with them. But please remember, I'm still human. Try to be kind in the comments. I would love to know from you, what makes your life more simple? What do you do to live more simply? And how does it impact you, your family, and your time? Thank you so much for watching this week. And for my loyal followers who watch all of my DIY videos, thanks for letting me do something a little bit different. If you're new here and you love DIY, subscribing might be a cool thing to do. I post new videos mainly every Sunday. And with that, I will see you next week.